Hi, it's Rich Tehrani in the TMC newsroom. Thanks for watching. Today on our program is Thomas Howe with Light and Electric, and we're going to have a conversation about cloud communications, an area where Thomas is an acknowledged industry expert, and we're thrilled to have him on the program. Thomas, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks for being here.
Nice to be here.
So our companies are putting together a cloud communications summit, and we are looking to educate the world on the benefits of utilizing cloud-based communications.
Sure.
So what are some of the areas that we'll be focusing on at the event that make it a can't miss?
Well, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that this really is a watershed moment in communications. Cloud communications deals with services that are out in the network instead of being in your closet. And what that does is it really changes the economics of how applications and services get delivered. And mainly because instead of paying for all of it up front, a very large CapEx cost, you pay for it transactionally as you use it, so pay as you go. And so the Cloud Communications Summit really starts to look at the implications of that from both technical and business standpoints. So we have sessions on voice mashups, which talks about taking voice and using it, voice and messaging, so it's not just voice, but all the communications sorts of technologies, and using them to enhance applications which have nothing to do with communications. So text messaging for notification that your deli order is ready, which is what Stop and Shop does in the East Coast. Or voice-enabled skills routing for contact centers. So things that really aren't necessarily voice and making them better. So we talk about that. We talk about communications enabling business processes. So taking the way a business would run and focusing in on how communications can speed the process up. And it's really the exact opposite of what unified communications has typically been. Unified communications really focuses in on making the person faster, making it easier to escalate a conversation from chat to voice, or making it easier for them to traverse voicemail boxes, et cetera. They're really focusing on the person's productivity. Communications Enabling Business Process, or CEBP, thinks about how do we transform the process, how do we form how to make the businesses run faster. Examples of that might be you could replace the hiring manager's position early on for a retail store with a phone script. So if you want to apply to CVS, you would call into a 1-800 number, and they would do a pre-screen for you on whether or not you're an appropriate employee for CVS, and then the ones that pass the pre-screen get passed on to the manager. And for most retail locations, a very high percentage, like 30 or 40% of managers' times inside stores is spent hiring cashiers. So it really helps to transform the business by focusing in on the process of hiring. So it's around that. And we also have some hands-on sorts of sessions. We have a nice session on enterprise use of cloud communication. So it's a very nice wide topic, but all focusing in on this fundamental change that allows us to use shared resources in the network instead of having to buy it and keep it in our own closets.
So I'm going to name a bunch of segments of the potential audience, and you tell me if these companies make sense to come to the show or not. Small business.
Absolutely.
Okay. Medium business.
Yes.
Enterprise.
Yes.
Retail insurance.
Yeah, they all do.
Okay. Reseller, like a VAR partner.
That's a great question. So a lot of work has been done recently. I did a report with an analyst from Opus Research called Dan Miller around the ecosystem of cloud communications and understanding what the positions are of older, more traditional firms in this cloud communications infrastructure. And one of the things which is still kind of out there is what is the role of the VARs in cloud communications? Because typical VARs make their money by installing, configuring, and supporting hardware inside of a facility.
Sure.
Where in cloud communications, most of the work is going to be done by companies that look a lot more like system integrators or web development firms that do the custom software
Sure.
to integrate the cloud communications into the website or the business process. So, there is a move, and it's still up for debate what the VAR's role is going to be in it.
Well, it's interesting that, I spent the 90s dealing with, back then it was unified messaging, and hearing from unified messaging vendors who were really looking to try to attach voicemail to emails and faxes to emails and bring that all together. They really had a complaint about your traditional telephony VAR, or what we used to call an interconnect, or sometimes we still call them an interconnect, and that they had to get up to speed on data. And so now what I'm seeing is now we've got this new breed of reseller who understands voice and data, and they now need to understand APIs and mashups.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
development and customization. And so really the skill set has gotten a lot more complex, and they just need to continually educate themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I recall back in the late 90s at your show, a very common comment from the audience was, do you really expect telephony VARs to learn about IP addresses, subnets, and masks? And now that's actually very much accelerated to saying, yes, we expect telephony VARs to be worrying about web servers, PHP, and REST APIs.
Sure.
So there is a huge...
Only if you want a job.
Only, well, yeah,
Right?
only if you'd like a job, and and unfortunately, most of us do. So, absolutely, it is the skills explosion is incredible, and just to stay on top of it is very difficult to do. And there is a real gap between what the web developers understand around communications, what the communication developers know about the web. So this is the intersection that we're trying to address.
Now, there's one segment that I didn't ask you about, and that's carriers. Do carriers have a role? Should they come to this conference?
Yeah, they absolutely should. Most carriers in Europe have APIs now that are built to use for cloud communications, voice mashups, and the like. It's still rather young in America. It's one of the ways in which we've been leapfrogged. I mean, Orange has an API, a great API. British Telecom has a great API. Deutsche Telekom has a great API. Telefonica, they all have really great offerings. Verizon and AT&T are a bit behind, and so I think for all the carriers coming to understand what their downstream customers are doing will be super valuable.
Great.
Yeah.
So basically, we invite everyone to look at the Cloud Communications Summit, October 4th through 6th in Los Angeles, California.
That's
at the LA Convention Center.
Great, absolutely right.
So we'll see you all there.
Yeah,
Thank
sure
you.
thing.